Welcome to The Glitter Effect, a podcast dedicated to shining a light on the movers, shakers, change makers, and all-round living legends of our communities who are making a real difference. Today on The Glitter Effect, I'm joined by someone whose work truly embodies what it means to be a glitter spreader. Dr. Anthea Skinner is a researcher, musician, and changemaker who has taken her own lived experience as a musician with a disability and transformed it into something extraordinary. Anthea is behind the Adaptive Music Bridging Program, which is a groundbreaking initiative that is opening the doors of music education to children with a disability. It's giving them access to adaptive instruments and the joy of playing alongside their peers in orchestras and bands. Anthea's story is proof that when people come together, great things really do happen. Anthea is also making sure that there is room for everyone in music and that no child is left standing on the sidelines. She doesn't just create opportunities, she creates sparkle. She shows us that inclusion is not just possible, it's powerful, and every note played in this program is another piece of glitter left on the path for others to follow. So let's dive in and hear how Anthea is lighting the way, spreading her glitter far and wide, and leaving a trail that is changing lives through music. Dr. Anthea Skinner, a huge warm welcome to The Glitter Effect.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you. I absolutely love what you're doing. So we're going to jump straight in, as we mentioned in the intro. You've got your initiative is the Adaptive Music Bridging Program, and I've been looking up what this is, and it's been described as revolutionising access to music by making space for everyone. So can you explain to us exactly what the program is and how this incredibly powerful idea first came to light?
Absolutely. So the Adaptive Music Bridging Program is a collaboration between my workplace, which is the University of Melbourne, and Melbourne Youth Orchestras, who rehearse on our South Bank campus every Saturday and have done so since I was a child.
Okay.
And it's essentially, so Melbourne Youth Orchestras has a series of graded orchestras and bands going from like 8 years, kids who are 8 years old, right the way through to like 25.
Yep.
And we slot in beneath them to basically support kids with disability to have their first lessons in instrumental music and to learn how to play in a band.
Yep.
And the idea for this, I guess you asked where it came from. My colleague Leon de Bruin and Dr. Leon de Bruin, who is the conductor of our band, and one of the music therapists at our university, Dr. Grace Thompson, or Associate Professor Grace Thompson, I should say. She's had a what's the word? Promotion since we did the project. So she's now an associate professor. We were doing some research looking at both professional musicians with disability in Melbourne and our own students at the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music at the University of Melbourne, and to basically discover, what the limitations were, what barriers they were facing. And one of the things we found was that actually the pinch point was not when they got to university, it was getting that first ever lesson. And that really rang true to me because, as you mentioned, I'm a musician with a disability and I have been since childhood. And I knew when I played with Melbourne Youth Orchestras that I loved it, but I was always the only obviously disabled kid in any full band or youth band or orchestra I played in. So I guess, on one level, it's, responding to this research where other musicians were saying we struggled to get those first lessons. But also on a deeper sense, it's, I guess, me trying to provide for this generation what my generation, didn't really have access to. I got very lucky. My mum's a drama teacher. Her best friend was a music teacher. They weren't going to let me miss out. So I kind of had the dream run.
Nice.
And so now we're trying to broaden that out so that everyone gets that chance, I guess.
That's great. So you're based in Melbourne, as you said, with the University of Melbourne.
That's
so
right.
what's the process for a child to take part in this program? How do you find out, firstly, get the children and the families to know about it? How do you find the instrument that suits them? And then what happens there?
And that can be a tricky thing because I think it's mostly about demystifying the process for the parents. I mean, to non-musicians, musical instruments can look very expensive and very scary. And why would you put your $800 clarinet in the hands of your clumsy child with cerebral palsy?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is about demystifying, but basically we start with an open call through Melbourne Youth Orchestras. They recruit all of their students at the start of every year. We have our own page on their website. We do a little bit of publicity through podcasts like your own, through the ABC, things like that. And then when the students come to us, we have a kind of a 3-stage process. So the first thing we do is I will just meet with the parents and the kids over Zoom.
Yep.
And that's really my chance, well, them to get to meet me, but also my chance to make sure we've got everything in the room ready for when they come. It's not an audition. We've never said to a child, no, you cannot join after this first stage or indeed after any stage. But it's basically about getting to know what their needs will be. But I'm also very aware, as someone who grew up as a disabled child myself, that it's very easy to medicalise kids in this situation.
Yep.
And that our kids are very medicalised, and some of them have been experimented on before by doctors and all sorts of things. So we were very careful to make this a musical experience. So in the interview, my first question is always, well, what kind of music do you like listening to?
Yeah, that's nice.
What instruments do you think you might want to play? Those kind of things. And then we kind of move down the nitty gritty of, getting to know what their needs are. But I think one of the important things is we actually never ask them what their diagnosis is in the form that their parents fill out. And in these conversations, we very much couch it in, what support do you need to play music? Why have you struggled to play music in your mainstream classes? What can we support you with? So some of our kids have been with us for 3 years and we actually don't know what their diagnosis is. Some kids will say, oh, I've got cerebral palsy and it makes my hand shake. Yep. And other kids will just say, my hand shake.
Yeah.
And, and I don't really care why, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So after they do their first interview, then we have come and try day, which I think for the kids is one of the most exciting days of the year. For me, it's one of the most exhausting days of the year.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So we're very lucky. We're sponsored by Yamaha and by Bows for Strings, who lend us a full set of band and orchestra instruments for the day.
Wow.
And it's the day where we have all the instruments in the room, as well as our own collection of adaptive instruments that were designed specifically for disabled people. And they can have a go on literally anything they want, So if they've got no hands, but they've always wanted to blow a bassoon, and we know that bassoon may never be their instrument, on Come and Try Day, they can come and blow that bassoon and see what it feels like.
Wow.
And through that process, we kind of, the kids find, what works for them.
Yep.
Musically and physically, and sometimes the kids completely confound our expectations. We have certain expectations about what is accessible for some kids, and I'll just go, but I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
And we then find a way to make a pathway to what does interest them, because, I can tell a kid that the trumpet is the best instrument for them, but if they've got their heart set on violin, they're not going to want to go home and practice the trumpet.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So then for a small number of students, we have what we call an instrument fitting day after that, where we might have to adjust things. Yeah. But for most kids, they come in, the next session they have will be coming into our class with them with their new instrument that they've purchased. We don't sell them, but we, put them in touch with people who can provide what they need sometimes, and then sometimes also with a luthier or someone who might, there's a violin maker who might, modify the instrument slightly if needed. Yeah. So that's our process.
That's beautiful. And how many kids at one time can you have on the program?
At the moment, we've got about 20, and that's over 3 classes. So we've got 2 very small classes with like 3 in them each.
Yep.
And then who are for our kids who face more barriers to playing, or for whom it's more, we need more time. Sometimes it's the students need more time, and sometimes it's we need more time to understand how their body works to get them making sound in the best way.
Yep.
Sometimes it's both. And then we have a sort of a larger group which runs very much like any kind of junior band, but I guess slightly more laid back.
That's nice. I like that. And is there an opportunity to perform to families and anyone who wants to come along and watch it? Is that what they work towards, or is it just very laid back and just?
No, we have concerts. We had one last Sunday with the University of Melbourne. That was a fantastic one. It was called The Art of Us, and it was sponsored by the Melbourne Recycle Centre where it was held. And that was actually where they were performing with disabled, deaf and neurodivergent university students from the Faculty of Fine Arts and Music. So they were literally getting to see, young adults who look like them doing what they're training to do.
Fantastic.
So that was really exciting. And then I think our next one is with the Melbourne Youth Orchestras, they're having a big busk at the Queen Victoria Market. So that'll be an outdoor gig where, great for bringing, grandparents and everyone, which is good because we sold out the one last week and a few people missed out. So,
that's good.
aunties and uncles and grandparents and brothers and sisters can all come to the outdoor one. But, they get to play in some really big theatres. They played in Hamer Hall, which is, Melbourne's biggest recital centre, and one of our kids whose mum's a music teacher said, "Mum, I've played in Hamer Hall and you haven't," So
that's gorgeous.
So that was lovely. Yeah, so they're getting the sort of full range of experience of being a performer, which is really important. And that's how you learn to be a performer. You actually learn to be a performer by playing with other people and by being on stage and and managing your emotions in all this. A lot of what we do is modeling appropriate rehearsal and performance behavior.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids struggle with that. Like I said, we're pretty easygoing. But I think, much to my surprise, we've never had a child had a meltdown at a concert. We've had a few in rehearsals. We've never had anyone who's had to not participate in a concert because they weren't feeling emotionally well enough to do that, which I think speaks to the fact that we're training them pretty well to be little performers, which is lovely.
Fantastic.
So it's a really good experience for the kids, I think.
And how long has the program been going for, Anthea?
We're in our third year in the classroom, and then there was another year before that of us organising ourselves, I guess.
So it's still very new, isn't it?
It is. We've got 2 more years funding from the Australian Research Council, so that's we know we've got 2 more years in the bank, and after that we'll have to work it out. But but that's good. I mean, that gives our students who started with us in that first year, 6 years potentially of music education.
Yeah.
Some of them have graduated up and are playing in other mainstream parts of the MYO now. We've got 4 students who play in the mainstream orchestras and bands, and we're still there to keep an eye on them if they need support. But
that's nice.
They're off playing with all the other kids. It's great.
So they've got pathways, and it's beautiful. And I love the fact that the disability doesn't define them, which is the way the world should be. And this just speaks volumes, doesn't it, to see how it's that pure joy and just a child being a child or a young adult being able to be a young adult without being defined by who they are, what they do, where they come from. So it's and music is magic for everyone, isn't it? I love
Absolutely.
Music creates such a safe space for so many people. What was, so in the first sort of 3 years, obviously you came up with the idea. It's always a risk, isn't it, when you come up with things like this? What was the moment that you go, what was the turning point, or was there a story, or was there something that happened that was the turning point that you just go, this initiative has got legs?
Yeah, and you're right. It was very nerve-wracking at the start. And honestly, with the students, my go-to answer for a lot of their questions for that first year was, I don't know, we're all learning together, which is a kind of a nice way to run an educational thing. And kids love it too, But it was probably at our first concert when I started to see them really working as a team. You're always nervous about how it's going to go. But it was actually the week before the first concert, we had a sound check. Because some of our kids use MIDI instruments and things, sound check for us can be quite stressful. Most sound engineers have never plugged in a frogophone, so that's what it is. And it was a big concert, and it had been a long day, and the kids had been there for like 4 hours maybe.
Oh, that's a big day.
And it was a concert where we had disabled staff members at the university were playing with them, and other disabled professional musicians were playing with them, because we think that modelling thing is really important. Anyway, so we were sitting around. It's the end of the day. It's 4 hours where it's, I'm telling kids half an hour and you can go home, I swear. And one of our little girls who is unable to speak, but she understands everything that's going on around her. She was starting to get quite distressed, and she started screaming, and that's how she, shows people that she's distressed. And one of the visiting musicians, an adult who was autistic, said, after this little girl started screaming, just said to the room, "Look, she's just saying what we're all feeling." And he was right. And we laughed, and the little girl in question laughed, because, she doesn't get listened to as a proper communicator very often. She was it may have sounded like screaming, but she was communicating something very important. And to have that heard in the room, and I just thought, yeah, okay, we haven't even gotten on stage yet. This is still a rehearsal, but we're building a community here, and a community of people who understand and support each other to make music. And I thought, to me, that was just a lovely moment because, a little girl whose opinions and communication often gets dismissed was very much heard by an adult in that room who had never met her before.
Yeah. How
and
special.
To me, that was lovely. Yeah.
And you said, obviously, you adapt all the instruments to suit each child. Have there been any that have been a few of more of a head-scratching exercise than others, maybe?
Yeah, look, to be honest, the majority of our students are playing completely standard instruments. And to me, that was a little confronting in that I'm the instrument designer on the team. My colleague, Dr. Leon de Bruin, he's the music educator on the team.
Yep.
I naively assumed that the major barrier for students was going to be technology, was going to be, the inability to physically use an instrument. What I very quickly discovered was that for probably about 70% of our kids, the major barrier is attitudinal.
Okay.
It's that they're not made to feel welcome in rehearsals. So we would have kids appearing saying, "I already know how to play trumpet, but I got kicked out of the school band because I have ADHD and I talk too much."
Right.
So, and of course, a child with ADHD talking too much is not misbehaving. That is a neurological, that said, it can be quite disruptive. And we have to find ways, to support a student to be able to participate, in a way that's not going to disrupt other kids. But yeah, so for me, that was a big shock. But yes, for the ones that we do, that we do have to modify or create, probably our frogophone that I mentioned is probably the most head scratching one. This was for the same little girl who I was talking about, who was just saying what everyone else was thinking in the rehearsal. She has a neurological condition that gives her an 8-second delay. So if you think about it, when she thinks about wanting to move her body to when she can move her body, there's 8 seconds between that time, which is really significant in life generally, but also in music making. And she used eye gaze, but was to communicate, but was very adamant that she did not want to use eye gaze to make music. We had a beautiful eye gaze instrument ready for her to go, and she's just like, it was hilarious. She's like, I do that at school every week. I'm not doing it on a Saturday.
Good on her.
Yeah, right. And this is about what I was saying about how sometimes they confound our expectations, and that is okay. This is supposed to be for fun. And having played those eye gaze instruments, I get it. They give you a headache. You have to be so focused and so in the moment. But anyway, so we were talking with her and her mum about, and honestly, I was pretty baffled. She was also our first student we ever interviewed, so it was kind of like throwing ourselves in the deep end. And then mum said, "Oh, look, any skill that she has before she started to regress at 3 neurologically, she still maintains. So if we can use a tool that she knew how to use back then," and that's where our frog came in. She had a toy frog that had like a Simon Says game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it lights up light. It has like 6 lights on its tummy and 2 on its hand. So there's a hint. That's 8 lights, 8 buttons. That's from Muso. That's
perfect.
And it flashes a combination of lights. And if you can then copy that back on the frog within a set period of time, it rewards you with flashing lights and a little song.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And this little girl who normally has an 8-second delay, because she had used this tool since before the delay started, it would flash its lights and she would just go boom, 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 and press the buttons and then just look at you and grin, And so with her mum and with our PhD student, Monica Lim, who is far more technically capable at these things than I am, we basically gutted, not her frog, we got I wish I'd told her that before I showed her the first one.
She was horrified.
It was a moment of horror. But we gutted her frog, and Monica turned it basically into a MIDI instrument. So those 8 buttons can now make any 8 notes. It can be a drum, it can be a violin, it can be fart noises if it wants, bearing in mind we deal with young people. Fart noises.
Yeah, whatever goes.
And she is still an emerging frogophone player. She has a lot of, struggles getting her body to listen to what she says. But she absolutely knows that this is her instrument and that it was made for her. Her mum made a little case for it, so she carries it to rehearsal in a little case like all the other kids.
How divine. I love that.
And so, we suddenly ended up having a frogophone, which was certainly not what I expected. But honestly, it sounds very technical, but a lot of what we do is far more simple. We had a violin bow guide that we made out of a chopstick and 3 rubber bands,
Okay. Yeah.
It's now 3D printed, but the original version was a chopstick and 3 rubber bands. We currently have a child who is playing percussion with her feet. So we got her tap shoes.
Amazing.
It doesn't have to be complex. And I guess for all the amazing stories we tell about these sort of MIDI instruments that we can create, and I'm lucky I have funding to have an engineer supporting me and stuff like that. I always want to bring it back to actually teachers in the classroom. For 98% of what we do, it's completely achievable. And for that other 2%, well, you can call us and we can help you. Because it's fantastic that we're able to run this program and everyone thinks it's amazing because we're the only ones that are doing it. But obviously, I would like to get to the point where we no longer need to run a program because it's available in every school band.
And that was actually my next question. You've taken my question.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. I was actually going to ask, so this is the only program of its type, is it, in Australia?
Yeah. There is a broadly similar program in the UK called Open Orchestras.
Yep.
Which is a little bit different, but probably the closest thing to what we run. But no, at the moment we're the only ones. We did have a meeting with, the other state youth orchestras recently to have a chat to them about how, they might be able to implement this. We do support so we have a number of schools who've called us and saying, we have one student who, is sitting in class, in music class, not doing anything because he can't play the ukulele or whatever. Actually, that particular student was like, he was devastated when we came in because he was quite happy to, he's 14, quite happy to sit doing nothing for a class.
Yeah. Busted.
Yeah, that's right. But so we can, we come in and able to support, just inclusion, on a one-to-one basis. We have, we've been collecting a whole bunch of adaptive instruments. Some of them are for people with very specific kinds of disabilities, like, for example, someone who's quadriplegic specifically. So we don't use them all the time every year. We have what our students need and then the rest sit in the cupboard. So if music teachers contact us and say, we have a student with these support needs, do you have anything that can help? We're very happy to lend out any of our gear because we'd rather have it being played by someone than sitting in our cupboard gathering dust until we find a student who needs it. So
100%.
So we're doing as much of that as we can, but really, at the moment our funding is to focus on this ensemble and to use those lessons to be able to create professional development projects and things for music teachers to sort of share our knowledge. That's what we do.
And what would your dream be based from this being the sort of the starting block, if you like, of the
We have our eyes firmly focused on the Brisbane 2032 Paralympics. So I would love to have our kids perform in that. If you know anyone, spread the word.
That's giving me goosebumps. Wow, let's hope someone's listening here.
Yeah, by that time our kids will be young adults. And I would love to, that's my plan. I just keep putting it out into the universe in the hopes that someone will hear and come back to me and say, yes, let's do it.
That's it. Say enough, someone will hear it. That's
right.
Oh, that would be magic.
I think so.
Home turf too. How amazing.
Exactly.
That would be fantastic. Now, you've transitioned from being in youth orchestras yourself, as you said, from overcoming a brain injury and then to leading this initiative and basically giving back, which is, it's so amazing. You are an incredible human. To get to this point, obviously there are people along the way who have inspired you. I like to call them the glitter kings and queens. And side note, you are part of glitter royalty right now as well. So don your crown. Who have been your glitter kings and queens along the way that have inspired you to get to where you are or be the person that you are today?
Oh, gee, there's a lot.
There's always a lot. I like it when people say that because then that means that's good.
Probably first and foremost is my mum. You said I had a brain injury, which is true, but is also slightly, I have a neurological condition that was caused by a viral brain injury. So we never had never had an accident or a moment or, it was a sort of a slow realizing that things were going terribly, terribly wrong.
Okay.
And my mum was there through all of that and has continued to be there through all of that
Beautiful.
to ensure that I always have access and to give me the assumption that I will have access, which now allows me to have the assumption that my students will have access.
Yeah.
And that I will make that happen. She very early on made this, because I can travel independently now, but I couldn't for a long, long time. She's like, okay, I will pay for your travel and I'll come with you for anything that's educationally related. She wasn't expecting me to do a PhD. So, I think I finished that at like 39.
She did say.
So, and she stood by me through all of it, which is fantastic.
Oh, what a legend.
But from a performance point of view, I'd probably say, and this is probably a left of field thing for someone who works with children, Tim Ferguson from the Doug Anthony All-Stars, who lives with MS. I've known him since I was a little kid, and back when, the Doug Anthony All-Stars were famous, so probably when I was the age of my students now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny, at that stage, neither of us had been diagnosed. We're both very tall and lanky looking, and people used to comment that we looked very similar and that we even moved in the same way. And it was many years later when we suddenly realized that wasn't just because we were tall and lanky. That was because our brains were not communicating with our legs. But, having watched him go from a job which was, he was a rock god sort of sex symbol where disability was the furthest thing from everyone's mind, to then withdrawing and going into sort of very production type roles because he felt that, people wouldn't take him seriously. I'm assuming that's why.
Yeah.
And then in his sort of 50s, deciding, no, stuff it. This is how I look and I still like performing and I'm going to keep doing it. And I think that's a wonderful thing and a very confronting thing to do. I think I'm lucky in a way that my disability was formed when I was young. I never had that adult expectation of losing a whole lot, like I think someone who was diagnosed at Tim's age would have. But yeah, I watch his trajectory and I'm like, I can keep doing this. That's
nice.
Yeah.
Someone to keep you, because there would be days that are slightly more challenging than others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I live with a lot of pain. That is an inherent part of my disability. And so, it does make it difficult some days to want to get out of bed. But gee, when you have a job like mine, it gives you a pretty good reason to get up and keep going, Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And like I said, our world is better, far better for people like you with your glitter. Now, last question. This is an easy one. I'm sure people listening to this would love to know more about the program, want to know how to get involved, how to support it, or at least even if they know anyone in their family or friends who might be interested. How do they go about that, Anthea? What's the best place for them to look?
I would look at the Melbourne Youth Orchestra's website. We have on their ensemble page, you'll see our ensemble on there. You can click. You can also find me on University of Melbourne's Find an Expert page, which this makes me feel a little hilarious. Saying, I just look, just if you need an expert, come on, I'm there. I'm online saying it. But the truth is, I am, and that's the easiest way to find me if you want to find my email. I would say if you email me, just be prepared for the fact that it's going to take me at least a week to answer because
only a week. Gosh, that's good.
I'm constantly behind on my emails, as I think most people are in this day and age.
Yeah, no, that's great. Anthea, we've reached the end of our chat. Thank you so much for joining me today and so generously sharing your story, your wisdom, and most importantly, your glitter. What you're doing through the Adaptive Music Bridging Program is nothing short of extraordinary, and I absolutely applaud it. I love everything you're doing. Breaking down barriers, opening doors, and proving that music really does have room for everyone. The world really, really needs more people like you, people who see the gaps, choose to fill them with kindness, creativity, and collaboration. You've shown us that when we work together, magic happens, and that glitter doesn't just shine in the moment, it leaves a trail for others to follow. Your work reminds us that inclusion isn't an optional extra, it's what makes our communities whole. And I know that every child who picks up an instrument because of this program is not only finding their own voice, but also adding to a much bigger symphony of hope. Thank you again, Anthea, for spreading your glitter so generously and for sharing your story with me today. The world is a much, much brighter place because of you and your glitter trail. I wish you, the program, all the very best with what's to come. And I look forward to following your progress. Take care.
Thanks for having me. I feel all shiny now.
Go shine away. Thank you for joining me, Kate Ganneil, on The Glitter Effect. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep showing up, making an impact, and sprinkling that glitter wherever you go. Bye for now.